So ITA Airways is a flag carrier and largest airline of Italy, and it's actually a pretty new airline, being founded only in 2021 after the collapse of Alitalia. The former flag carrier of the country, they're a state-owned airline, but it's currently in the process of being privatized, and it's very likely the Lufthansa Group is going to be the one to buy a stake in the airline in the near future. So in this video, I'm mostly going to be talking about what we should expect in the future of the airline, especially regarding the takeover by Lufthansa. Let's get some background information first. ITA has their main hub at Rome Fiumicino International Airport, while their secondary hub is at Milan Linate International Airport. ITA currently flies to 65 destinations as of March 2023, including 55 routes from Rome, 9 of which are long-haul flights, as well as 31 routes from Milan Linate, as well as a flight between Milan Malpensa and New York JFK. But ITA is also going to be adding 3 long-haul destinations this year from Rome to Washington, Rio de Janeiro, and San Francisco. The airline started operations in 2021 with about 52 aircraft, including 45 narrowbodies from the Airbus A320 family of aircraft and 7 Airbus A330-200s. This has so far grown to about 66 aircraft as of March 2023, including 4 Airbus A320-300s, 17 Airbus A319s, 28 Airbus A320-200s, 3 Airbus A320neos, 8 Airbus A330-200s, and 6 Airbus A350-900s. But ITA is also wet leased several Bombardier CIJ-1000s, and Embraer E190s operated by other airlines. Besides that, the airline also has orders for 7 Airbus A220-100s, 11 Airbus A220-300s, 28 A320neos, 28 A321neos, 17 Airbus A330-900s, and 2 A350-900s. Many of these aircraft were originally supposed to go to other airlines that canceled their wide-body orders, or Russian airlines that were sanctioned by the EU, which is how ITA was able to very quickly acquire so many of them in such a short amount of time. Now, it's very well known that ITA's predecessor, Alitalia, was struggling for years before it ceased operations, having to deal with fierce competition from other European airlines, especially from the low-cost airlines, but also the high-speed rail system in Italy, which has taken a huge chunk of the domestic market share. And they had massive debt that they were unable to pay off. Alitalia went into administration multiple times, but it was still unable to fix their finances. The airline's fleet was also aging badly, and with their weak finances, it wasn't capable of buying newer and more efficient aircraft. The only solution left at this point was to kill it off and create a new airline. And thus came ITA Airways, which many call Alitalia 2.0 for obvious reasons. ITA was expected to perform a lot better than its predecessor. According to the CEO, they're not doing too bad, with load factors of around 87 to 88%, but still that doesn't necessarily mean they're profitable. It's unclear how they're doing financially, but it's very likely they're still struggling, especially considering the multiple bailouts the airline has been receiving. And so the Italian government wants to privatize the airlines so that somebody else can take over and deal with them, and maybe help them to finally become profitable, which is something that simply wasn't going to happen under the corrupt state ownership. Several companies were interested in buying a stake on the airline, including Delta, Air France KLM, and EasyJet, but ultimately the only one that actually placed a bid was Germany's Lufthansa. Air France KLM instead began to focus on Tapia or Portugal, while the International Airlines Group is focused on Air Europa. Anyway, Lufthansa is aiming to acquire a 40% stake on Alitalia, with plans to eventually have a majority stake on the airline. If the takeover goes through, ITA's future is mostly going to be shaped by Lufthansa. And I think it actually makes a lot of sense, since Italy is Lufthansa's largest international market behind the United States. And Lufthansa is very interested in having a hub in Southern Europe that will give them a larger share of the Italian market, but may also help them expand towards Africa and more. Anyway, one of the main things that's going to happen if Lufthansa takes over is that ITA will very likely leave the SkyTeam alliance and then join the Star Alliance that Lufthansa is part of, as well as developing new codeshare and interline agreements with different airlines such as United Airlines, Turkish Airlines, or Singapore Airlines. Some of the SkyTeam codeshares will be terminated, such as that with Delta, Air France, and KLM, but some will very likely remain, such as Air Mexico and Aerolíneas Argentinas, since they seem to be rather essential to the airline. ITA's network expansion is going to be largely focused around Star Alliance hubs, and actually I think it makes sense since the Star Alliance covers a lot more destinations than SkyTeam, especially considering how disengaged ITA and Alitalia were from the SkyTeam alliance. And since Lufthansa is one of the more active members of the Star Alliance, that probably means that ITA will very likely take part in the joint ventures that Lufthansa is part of, such as the transatlantic joint venture with United Airlines and Air Canada, or the one with ANA in Japan, Singapore Airlines, or Air China. The airline's long-haul expansion is most likely going to be focused on North America, which has a lot of Italian diaspora, but also brings a lot of business and leisure travelers to Italy, and a lot of connecting passengers. This may include destinations such as Newark, Chicago, Houston, and Toronto. Meanwhile, in Asia, you can include Singapore, which is a major business hub, where passengers can also connect onto flights to Australia, but maybe also Mumbai, Bangkok, Osaka, and Hong Kong, as well as increased frequencies in South America where there's a lot of Italian diaspora. Africa and the Middle East may also be good places to add new flights, giving Italy's location closer to these places that can make for convenient connections from Western Europe and North America via Rome. While other connecting opportunities may be in North America to South Asia and the Balkans, South America to Eastern Europe and Asia, Western Africa and Western Europe to Asia, and Africa and North America, just to name a few. Because of this, I believe that ITA has the potential to develop Rome into a major international hub. The wide-body aircraft would definitely help in the airline's international expansion. The Airbus A350s already fly on busier long-haul flights to North America and South America, but also Japan, while the Airbus A330-900s will help replace the aging Airbus A330-200s that were inherited from Alitalia. And they'll fly on the remainder of ITA's long-haul flights, but it'll also help in the airline's long-haul expansion when adding new destinations. Meanwhile, the smaller Airbus A220 with 145 seats will help replace the Airbus A319s. This will be the backbone of ITA's domestic operations that tend to be less profitable, but it can also help the airline expand into the Balkans and much of Eastern Europe, where ITA currently doesn't have many flights, but also to Northern Africa and smaller destinations in Western Europe. But the A220 can also help Milan Linate become a more efficient hub. Linate's location, being closer to Milan's city center, is an advantage and it attracts a lot of local traffic, but its potential is limited because of the airport's capacity and because international flights outside of the EU and the UK are not allowed. So any international flights must fly to Milan Malpensa. Leonardo's dependence on European flights is a disadvantage for the airline given the market is very competitive, which is why the smaller A220 with its lower fuel burn and lower operational costs is going to be the perfect aircraft for this hub. Most of ITA's short-haul expansion, though, will be backed by the Airbus A320neos and A321neos that will enable ITA to operate most of their short-haul flights more efficiently in most of Europe, but also in Northern Africa and the Middle East, but especially the main route between Rome and Milan, and other domestic flights that will reduce the airline's operational costs and will help replace the Airbus A320ceos that are older and less fuel efficient. ITA also seems to be planning an expansion towards the Middle East and Western Africa using Airbus A320s and A321neo aircraft, which would benefit Lufthansa since they can more easily compete with Air France and other airlines that dominate the market, especially because Lufthansa will have to use a larger A330 from Frankfurt that may be more expensive to operate. Meanwhile, passengers from different cities in Europe and North America could easily connect at Rome to catch a flight to Africa and the Middle East. In order to support such a massive expansion, ITA will have to gain back their reputation among the Italian people, but also outside of Italy. They're really going to have to invest a lot in their cabin products and customer service, most of which was inherited from Alitalia, so it's very outdated and a lot of people don't like it. For the short-haul fleet, I believe that there at least should be some sort of premium economy class with extra legroom for European flights, but they seem to be planning to have a sub-fleet of A321neos with business class seats for the longer flights to Africa and the Middle East. The wide-bodies, on the other hand, have a much better cabin product in comparison, which makes sense since they tend to fly in the more profitable long-haul flights. The A330s have the same configuration that Alitalia had with 256 seats in the three classes. The A330-900s that will arrive later this year will have 291 seats, including 30 seats in business, while the A350s have a newer cabin product with 334 seats in two classes. When looking at this cabin, the look is pretty generic, but it looks decent, which makes me think this was done rather quickly in order to roll out the A350s sooner rather than later. ITA has plans to eventually reconfigure the A350 fleet. According to their CEO, they will have a four-class configuration, with 40 seats in business class, and the rest divided into premium economy, comfort, and standard economy. But either way, I'm not exactly sure if any of that's gonna come true, especially if the company switches ownership, but it would be nice if that was the case. Now, one last thing that I think is gonna happen is ITA is gonna merge with Air Dolomiti, which is also part of the Lufthansa group and feeds a lot of traffic from Italy into Lufthansa's hubs at Frankfurt and Munich. If they do merge with Alitalia, they will operate regional flights for the most part. Now, I'm pretty sure the Lufthansa takeover would definitely help the airline be somewhat stable, similar to how it did for Austrian Airlines, Swiss, and to an extent Brussels Airlines. But at the same time, despite of all the advantages, I feel like it's not going to be as great as it would appear to be, especially considering the other members of the Lufthansa group only seem to have limited growth while Lufthansa and Eurowings take over all the market share. But the fact that Rome is not as near to Germany and is a much bigger market than Austria, Switzerland, and Belgium gives me some hope that ITA could have more interesting growth than the other carriers in comparison. But we still can't deny the risk that there is for ITA to be basically stuck where they're at while Lufthansa takes over all their market share and only does the bare minimum to help the airline. And well, while the Lufthansa Group is likely going to help ITA become a more stable airline, it's going to be a challenge for ITA Airways to become profitable and stable in the coming years. They got to regain their reputation among the Italian people. They got to improve their cabin product to become more competitive, which is going to be expensive. They're also going to have to deal with fierce competition from other local airlines like Wizz Air, Ryanair, and EasyJet. They have aggressively taken over a huge chunk of the Italian market and still keep on adding more and more routes in Italy, but also the high-speed rail lines that have taken a lot of the domestic market, especially in the shortest routes. Luckily, ITA seems to have an agreement with the rail and bus operators around Italy to basically connect passengers from the plane to the train and vice versa. Either way, as much as I love to speculate about the future of the airline, I don't actually know what's going to happen. They may say one thing, but end up doing something entirely different. Maybe it won't grow like we all think it's going to do. Maybe Lufthansa is going to suck the life out of them and only do the bare minimum. But who knows? Maybe they will actually pull through and become the great airline that I'm sure they can become easily. I don't know the whole situation. I do know they're going to need tons of investment. What all that investment is going to do is yet to be determined by Lufthansa. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If y'all got any questions, feedback, or any comments, y'all can leave a comment. I also made a Twitter that y'all can follow. I'll be posting stuff about airline analysis and route developments and cool stuff over there, so go ahead and check it out. That's all I got to say, and I'll see y'all later.